right. Hello. I'm Irma. I'm here. I'm just take a moment to settle in. um, and I hope everybody that's watching this is having an amazing day. I have the sunset actually coming in through right in front of me, so it's pretty dope, not gonna lie. I've been really enjoying just like staring into nature recently and really appreciating trees. I have like there's like six trees right in front of me right now. And just like thinking about, the life cycle of a tree, which is like kind of not necessarily meta, but it's one of those things that you don't really think about very often, right? And so I've just been finding myself like really inspecting, and that's been sort of my word for the first 2 months of this year is like, I need to inspect this. I want to inspect these feelings, or I want to inspect this object. And it gives me some space to actually like just stop and think, and sometimes not think. Sometimes I just stare at the sunset, or I stare at the sky, and I'm just like, wow, it's really beautiful that we get to live in this, sometimes very challenging and sad world, but we do get the beauty of nature all around us all the time, right? So yeah, very not necessarily some where I wanted to start this, but that's just what came out. And when I think about those times that I'm just sitting there and kind of like, even just now, like just staring out at the sunset, I think a lot about like distractions, and I think a lot about how the world is constantly moving so fast for us. And for some of us, we can't slow it down, right? It's just life. Unfortunately, for some of us, we don't have the time to stop, and we don't have the time to really process and feel and think and make choices, right? Because life is sometimes just thrown at us, and we sort of have to just adapt, right? And so when you're growing up, you are sort of put into this place where you're a child. Your parents, or whoever your guardians are sort of like the people that are sort of guiding you through life. Again, that's something that's thrown upon you, right? You're too young and too early, right, in your childhood development and your mental development to even process where I am and what's happening around me, and why these decisions are being made for me, and how that's going to impact my life as I move forward, and become an adult, and then go into being an elderly, and kind of just going through that process. So I think a lot about that. I think a lot about how because life is sometimes mapped out for us in some ways, very generally. I'm not saying that like every step is mapped out for us, but like society sort of gives us this like blueprint that's like, hey, you're a baby, and you're gonna go to preschool, and you're gonna learn your alphabets, and you're going to learn your motor skills, and then over time you're gonna become a teenager, and these are things that are gonna happen in that phase of your life, and so on and so forth. That I think a lot of us, and this happened a lot to me, where it's like I sort of got caught up in that laid out journey, or that laid out path, right? Because that's all you hear, whether it's from your, again, guardians, parents, friends, guardians and parents, friends, right? Teachers, mentors, people that you meet at the grocery store. Like, I feel like we have all these inputs that are constantly coming at us with, you should be doing this, you should, by this age have this figured out. And I think a lot of the time that ends up infiltrating actually what we want to do within ourselves, and like what makes us feel good, and we sort of start to rely, or just by default, right? We don't know any better. By default, we just start following those pieces of advice, or those recommendations, or those things that worked, right, for my mom's friend, that now I'm like, oh yeah, I should probably also start a business because she did that and she's really successful, and I want to be successful, right? But if you really take a step back, and if you really think about, okay, why do I want to follow that path? Will it make me feel good? Maybe it will, and so therefore I will go down that path. But I think what I'm trying to get at with what I'm saying right now is like, if you do have like a moment, a couple seconds, a minute each day, it's just kind of just evaluating, right? Like, where are you right now? Are you content, right? Are you happy with the state of things? Are you doing things that don't feel good? And it's really hard to get there because social media, technology, jobs, kids, taking care of parents and being a caregiver. Like there's so many things, financial security, right? There's so many, I don't even know what to call them. There's so many structures, right, that we are constantly kind of like trying to punch them out of the way as we kind of dig through this like jungle or forest of a world, right, to kind of get to that end destination, or at least one of the destinations that is going to lead to some sort of enlightenment or happiness or just like peace, right? And so for me recently, what's been helping a lot is really slowing down. And I'm really very privileged and I'm grateful that I have the time to slow down. I know a lot of people do not. And I remember, right, when I didn't have the time, when I was just so solely focused on my career and my relationship and taking care of family and my own personal career growth, not necessarily personal development, right, which is kind of different, but personal career growth. Like, where am I? How can I be successful? How can I make more money, right? Like all these things that again are sort of put onto us, sometimes by force, right? Because the world is expensive. Things aren't free all the time or at all. And so, something that I've been trying to do recently is really stop. And again, even if it's just 60 seconds or 30 seconds and just kind of evaluate, like, where am I right now? Like, what am I doing? Am I happy with it? And then something that I've been also trying as well is like, getting away from those distractions, right? So there are certain things in my life. I've gotten better at this. I'm not an expert, but like I used to be very distracted. I used to be very distracted by people and things. And not to say that I'm not distracted still today. I still am to a certain extent. I think I'm better, right, than I was like a year ago or 2 years ago. But I remember just like feeding into those distractions because it was easy. It was harder to look within. It was harder to like ask myself those deep questions about, again, where am I? What am I doing? Do I feel good about this? Am I a good friend? Am I a good daughter? Like all these things. I think once I sort of started to prioritize looking within myself, taking walks, looking at nature and just, again, experiencing love, experiencing life as it is right now. I think once I started doing that, I started to feel more present, more here. And all that, and kind of what that meant was sort of taking myself away from those distractions, right? So that could mean, ending a friendship, or that could mean distancing myself from certain people or things, getting off social media, reading more physical books instead of doing ebooks, like little changes like that over time. And I've only really been doing this intentionality of like, I guess a way of living for maybe like the past year and a half. It's not really been that long. I think it's taken me a long time to get here, just in general as a person, but doing those little shifts and where my attention goes, how I feel about certain things, I think that's been helping a ton. And I think it's also helped my anxiety. I just to be completely honest, like I was on anxiety medication. I was diagnosed with social anxiety about 2 years ago, and I was on anxiety medication for the past 2 years or year and a half. And I think recently I've come off that medication, and I've really started to look back and sort of do like a little reflection, right? And kind of think about all the things that I don't currently maybe let into my life, all the boundaries that I currently have that have helped now that I'm not on anxiety medication, and really being mindful of, again, where is my attention going? And I think the more that I create those boundaries and create those structures that are personal to me, right? They're going to be different for you, but whether it's like, hey, I'm only going to check my phone in the very early morning, and maybe like towards the end of the evening, right before, I start to like wind down. I'm going to start learning a new language. I am going to start reading more, like all of these little, I guess, actions and I guess habits, right, in a way that I've built over time have lessened my anxiety because I feel more control. I feel like life isn't just happening around me. I'm kind of living life now. And it feels really weird to say that because like, it just takes so long. I feel like it takes so much work to get there, but it feels so good. It feels so good to be at a place where, like, again, I don't have everything figured out, but like, I do feel better. I do feel better than I did 2 years ago. And I think to me, that's a huge, sign that like some of the things I've been doing have been working. There also have been things that I've been doing that aren't healthy, right? So whether it's a diet or whether it's like overthinking or going down deep rabbit holes about what I said in a conversation, right? Like that still happens to me. I'm not saying I'm like not immune. I'm like I'm propelling these things away, but like little by little, I think I hopefully will get to the point where, yeah, like there's certain things that I'm just not gonna let into my space, into my inner peace, into my my constant, right, of following what makes me happy. And I might not ever have this chance again to feel this way if certain things happen in my life, if I have a loss in my family, or if I have like financial troubles, like whatever it is. But like in this moment right now, I feel, very grateful. I'm very, just happy with like all the work that I've done. And so because I was thinking about this so much, I wanted to make this video and kind of share, like, we live in a world that is full of distractions kind of on purpose, right? Like, not the more we think about, the more we question, the more we look within ourselves, right? The more questions that we have. And I think that's not something that everybody wants to do, but I think at the end of the day, it gives us a different perspective on life. It gives us a different perspective on relationships and how we spend our time and just who we are as people. And again, you might not be able to take actions on those things, but I think the first action is just acknowledging, right? It's just like, knowledge is power. Like the more that you think about your inner peace, what you're doing today, what's making you happy, what am I distracted by? Like if I'm on my phone and I've been on TikTok for like 2 hours, like if you just take 2 seconds and you ask yourself like, okay, did I learn something? Maybe you did. And like, that's really important to you. And I think as long as you understand that and you're happy with that and you're okay with that, like, I think that's amazing. But if you ask yourself that question, you're like, didn't really get much out of this experience with TikTok and these videos about whatever it is. It's just a question. It's just like, okay, how do I feel about that? Do I want to change that? Maybe you don't. Maybe you can't, right, at this time because of all the factors that are around you. But maybe the next time you're on TikTok for 2 hours, like maybe you'll have that same question. And that same question can lead to a different answer or a different action, right? So all to say, I think if you're feeling like I was and still am distracted in some ways, just know that like all that energy that's going into those distractions is energy that you can get back to go back into yourself, right? And so I hope that you're able to find, again, those couple seconds, whether it's once a day, once a week, once a month, to just stop and pause and think. And yeah, hopefully this was helpful. It was helpful for me. I'm actually going to this is super random, but I'm going to intro to oil painting class right now. So maybe next time I'll talk about doing things alone and how that feels and the scariness of like just being solo and being in solitude and all the things that brings up. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more of these, subscribe or whatever, but you don't have to. I think it's just cool that you watch this. And if you didn't finish the whole thing, like that's also cool. But thank you for listening. And yeah, hope you have a peaceful day.